Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Orchestry platform live demo session. Last one for the year. If you have joined us on this journey here over the last, I think, 6 months since we started doing this, really happy that you have managed to join us again. Really interesting topic today, all around saving storage costs. And the reason that we wanted to talk about this is we have lots of customers who are paying Microsoft a bunch of additional money for storage. And really, you don't want to do that, right? I think we give Microsoft enough money. So we're going to really talk about how we can save on some of these storage costs using Orchestry, some of the capabilities that we have to understand storage, trends, who's using what. But ultimately, what we also want you to do is help you manage that storage from end to end, whether it's from the provisioning perspective, whether it's from the active usage part, or whether it's through archiving as well. So lots and lots of interesting content that we are going to have today. So my name is Michael Basarik. I am one of the folks here at Orchestry. Lots of experience in Microsoft and Microsoft 365 as well. Claim to fame is I used to be a former professional chef before I got into this, and I'm super proud and happy to lead an awesome team of all of our amazing folks here at Orchestry. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free. LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, some of the other platforms that are currently up in the kind of being created, Blue Sky, whatever those are. But definitely get in touch with me. More than happy to help if you have any questions around any of the particular topics that we covered today. A little bit about Orchestry. So we are a platform built on top of Microsoft 365 with a range of capabilities really to help you better manage and effectively use the investment that you've made in Microsoft 365. We know a lot of organizations, and us as well, love Microsoft 365. We also know there's some areas where there's gaps within what Microsoft has provided. Of course, there's going to be gaps. Microsoft 365 is a massive platform full of amazing capabilities. And really what we're trying to do with Orchestry is to plug in a lot of those gaps that maybe Microsoft doesn't serve as well. But ultimately, it's to help you really get better value out of Microsoft 365, whether you're an administrator or whether you're an end user. We have capabilities for both. The reason that we created Orchestry, and I'll go through this really quickly before we jump into a demo. Again, some pretty common areas that we found and we know from using the platform that are challenges. So lack of visibility and direction. So really understanding what's going on in Microsoft 365. It can be a little bit difficult. Lots of different admin centers, lots of places to go around. We hear from a lot of customers and partners that they're writing PowerShell scripts to try to understand what's going on. Again, this can be complicated, this can be costly, and you really want to spend your time doing other things than writing PowerShell scripts, for instance. So again, we have a whole range of capabilities around that. The other thing is around IT resources. We hear this a lot, and I've often said that being a Microsoft 365 admin is a really difficult, almost thankless jobs. But again, we hear from a lot of admins that you're flooded with requests from users, whether it's helping them understand what tools they should use when in Microsoft 365, or maybe understanding, what's going on in terms of storage or security or permissions or anything like that. Again, we want to make your job easier, not only giving you the visibility that you need, but also helping you to automate these things. And for storage in particular, it's a really good story because we know that in Microsoft 365 and SharePoint and OneDrive in particular, storage can get out of hand really quick. And there are some really great capabilities that Microsoft provides you, especially going forward. But going back in time and trying to clean out old versions of content, or even understanding, which sites have the most content or which sites are growing the quickest can be a bit difficult. We are going to help you with all of that. Of course, lack of governance as well is a huge thing. We know organizations want to enable self-service capabilities in Microsoft 365. We think that's a really good thing. We don't want to have customers who have environments completely locked down, because then people just go rogue and start using other capabilities and other tools. But we also know that, again, that balance can be a little bit lacking. So we want to provide you that balance within Orchestry as well through some self-service provisioning capabilities, and also the ability to really get your content owners involved in that entire process around managing governance and managing security. Security and compliance concerns, we know that's a huge thing, especially now with Copilot coming up and everyone getting very excited about Copilot. If you have been listening to Microsoft Ignite, which is happening at the moment, it's a frenzy of Copilot everything. Whatever you can Copilot, Microsoft will Copilot that, and I think they're well on the way to Copiloting everything. But again, in order to make Copilot effective, you need to have that security in place, right? So making sure that we understand the security posture of our users and our content as well is really important. And again, out of the box, a little bit difficult, right? A little bit difficult to understand who has access to what permissions are applied, who has shared links. We've got all of that stuff happening. And the other thing that we often hear as well, and it's something that we're seeing a trend with our customers, is kind of reductions of additional costs and additional licenses. Microsoft has really got this really broad set of capabilities, but what we've found is that they're now starting to put these things across multiple different licenses for multiple different things. So whether it's things like Teams Premium to help you understand maybe Teams activity and usage, well, that's not part of the standard E3 or E5 license. You have to buy a Teams Premium license for that. If you want to do something like reviews of users, for instance, you can do a little bit of that in P2, but if you want the really powerful capabilities, you need to buy an additional Entra ID governance license for that as well. And of course, the biggest one for a lot of our customers is paying Microsoft for additional storage. And we'll talk about what that is, because once you start paying Microsoft for storage, it's not cheap. And it's really difficult to get out of that situation. So again, we want to be a little bit proactive in that as well. All right, what is Orchestry? If you don't know, again, platform built on top of Microsoft 365, beautiful, simple, easy to install, it makes sense, and it just works, right? We have a whole range of capabilities. Again, if you've been to any of these previous sessions, we've kind of gone through all of these. I'm not going to go through all of these today. We're going to talk about how these capabilities can really help on the storage piece. But if you are interested, and if you want to listen to someone with a far more appropriate accent talk to you about Orchestry, reach out to us, get in a demo, and we'll tell you all about what we have to offer. All right. And again, if you've never been to one of our demos as well, get engaged, ask us questions. Feel free to use this as free consulting here. Again, we've got a lot of folks on the call. If you see me looking down, I'm not answering messages. I hate when people are in a meeting and you think they're like typing to someone else. I'm actually looking at the chat here. So if you have any questions, put it into the chat. I'll make sure that I'll answer it as well. Okay, let's talk about the storage problem. Now, we know, and probably our data is a little bit skewed, that lots of customers have storage issues in Microsoft 365. And what I mean by that is it's very easy to go over storage, and it's very easy to get into a state where you are paying Microsoft for storage. So what could happen? Now, we have customers that maybe go over storage by a couple of gigs. We have customers that maybe go over storage by 1 or 2 terabytes, which is a lot of data. We also have customers that do this. So this is actually a live screenshot of one of our customers. I'm not going to say who it is. They are over 400 terabytes over their storage limit. Now, this is a pretty extreme case. I know when I saw this, I thought, this is not possible, there's something wrong. But again, this happens, and this can be a challenge and an issue simply because of the way that storage works in Microsoft 365 on the SharePoint side. And if you don't know the way that it works, is that every time you open up a document, so let's say you're working on a beautiful PowerPoint presentation, right, that you want to share to the rest of your organization, every time you open that document up, you're going to make an additional copy of that document. And by making an additional copy of that, you're essentially doubling, tripling, quadrupling storage over time. So what we find with a lot of organizations is that if you're going in and you're working on documents, PowerPoint presentations, images, that storage builds up over time really, really quickly. So a single presentation or a single Word document, for instance, might have 100, 200, even 500 versions associated with that. And then what happens, you start to go over storage really, really quickly. And then Microsoft is going to come after you and they're going to request more money. We'll talk about how much that is in just a moment as well. So at Orchestry, we wanted to understand if that's an issue. So we sent out a survey to some of a small set of our customers. Turns out it is, right? For most of our customers that we have within Orchestry, this is either a significant challenge, a moderate, or a critical challenge as well. We would love to hear what you folks hear as well. So just click on this Typeform link. Typeform is just a form thing that we use. Would love to hear what you're thinking as well. But again, we're finding that organizations are running into these storage challenges. And once you do run into these storage challenges, it's really, really difficult without a tool like Orchestry to be able to go and clean that up through here as well. So what's the problem, right? The problem is once you start to pay Microsoft for storage, it starts to get expensive, right? So SharePoint kind of hosting storage is 20 cents per gigabyte currently. Now you can get some discounts on this from Microsoft, but it does get really expensive. For those of you who are trying to work out, well, 20 cents per gig, it's quite a lot. I wonder how much our folks from before, they had a bill from Microsoft of almost $1 million in extra storage costs, which is a lot of money, as you can probably know. Now, I don't think Microsoft charged them this. I think they gave them a discount, but they were still spending a lot of money. And let's be honest, if you don't need to spend the money, it's better spent elsewhere. Now, there's a bunch of other options as well that we have. You have within Microsoft 365 from a storage perspective as well through here. And again, there's a few options available. You've got obviously the ability just to pay Microsoft extra, right? So let's say, for instance, that you want to have another terabyte or another few terabytes of data as well. You can pay Microsoft for extra storage. There's another capability which we'll talk about, which is called Microsoft 365 Archive. That's a new capability now, where again, you can choose to take a SharePoint site or a team, put it into what's called the Microsoft 365 Archive. Then you're only paying 0.5 or 5 cents per gig here to store that archive data. The interesting thing, though, is that you're paying 12 times that to restore that data, right? Now, for most organizations, that's not going to be a huge challenge because, for instance, if you're essentially just archiving a lot of stuff, you're not going to need to get that stuff back and it's going to sit there. That's fine. But just so you know, if you are restoring data here, you actually have to pay 60 cents per gig. So if you're interested in using the M365 archive capability, it is new. Think about how much restoration you're going to do, because if you're doing a lot, it might be worth doing something else. Now, there's also other ways to do this, and we are hearing from a lot of customers where now they've got so much content and so much storage. SharePoint storage is not going to work. M365 Archive is not going to work for them either. They're looking at other types of storage information, other types of storage. So things like putting it into Azure blobs. And again, these could be cool. This could be cold. That gets pretty cheap pretty quickly as well. So that's definitely a cost-effective measure of essentially doing that. Okay. So we've talked about a couple of options as well here. Oh, and again, if you're going to do it to cold storage, so if you've got 10 terabytes extra, again, SharePoint's going to cost you 24 grand. M365 Archive, assuming you don't get anything back, is going to cost you about 6. And there's also another range of options here by moving it over to Azure storage. I'll talk a little bit around that. Again, it's not something that can be easily done out of the box. You do need a third-party tool, but if you're an organization that is ripping through storage, it can be an interesting option. Okay, so what can we do? How can we help? And let's get into a demo here, because I always talk about, you don't want to just see slides, you want to see demo. There is lots of ways that Orchestry can help you from the storage side. I'm going to go through a few of them, and then we're going to jump into a demo and see all of this goodness in action here as well. But again, we have a whole range of capabilities to help you understand some of the storage challenges that you have, to help you then action them, and also to help you optimize that going forward. So from a provisioning perspective, one of the capabilities that we have is if you're going to allow self-service provisioning, you are going to have the ability to set version limits within those templates. Again, out of the box in Microsoft 365, if I just go and create a SharePoint site, the default number of versions is going to be 500. That's a lot of versions. It's probably not as many as you want. It's probably way too many that you need. Again, with Orchestry, you can set up templates to say, well, every time I create a SharePoint site, instead of having 500 versions of content, maybe I only want 100, or maybe I only want 30. It sounds like a really simple configuration change, but going from 500 to 100, you're literally putting down a quarter, right? Or you're reducing your storage by 80% there also. The other thing important to note here, Microsoft is releasing some really great new capabilities around helping you manage storage. And again, we are going to put those options into Orchestry as well. Some of them are going to be time-bound storage, so you can say, I only want to keep the latest 6 months of stuff, and some of them are going to be a little bit smarter as well through here as well. So that's the first way. Second way, and probably the most effective way for our customers, is through what we call our archival policies. This is the best way to help you clean up content and storage on existing Teams and SharePoint sites that you might have. Within Orchestry, we have the capability to do what's called a renewal or an archival policy. This allows you to create a policy that does a number of different things, but one of the things that allows you to do is to say, well, as part of an archival process, what we're going to do is we're going to archive this content, but we just want to keep the latest version. We want to remove all of the previous versions of content, or maybe we want to just archive all of the major versions and all of the things like that. That can be a game changer for organizations, because from what we see, probably about 90% of your storage is old versions. And you probably don't need old versions of stuff that you edited, 5, 10, 3 years ago. You probably just need the latest or the latest few. Again, with Orchestry, we give you that ability to do that as well. What else can we help? Well, we can help you understand that as well. There's one thing knowing that we can help this stuff, but what should you start archiving and what's going on in storage? Through our beautiful recommendations engine, you don't have to be an expert. We're going to tell you, right? We're going to tell you exactly what you need. So even with our recommendations engine, and I'll show you this in just a moment, we're even going to show you the workspaces, the teams, the SharePoint sites that you should look at to get your storage under control. So we show you what we call bloated workspaces or workspaces near your storage limit. We'll even let you know when you're approaching your storage quota in your tenant, right? Microsoft's probably not going to let you know. They probably want you to go over so they can charge you, right? It's kind of a secret, but we're going to let you know through here as well. And again, so if you're an admin, you don't need to go and look at these reports every day, maybe once a week. You just go in and you see all of these capabilities through here and make it really, really quick. Next thing we can also help you understand is your trends in storage as well. So again, it's one thing knowing where you are. It's also another thing you want to know, how did we get into this situation? So again, through our health checks feature, we're going to help you understand those trends over time, not just for storage, but lots of other things. But the really interesting one for trends is it really helps you understand what's going on. And again, beautiful capability. Think of a health check as the ability to snapshot information about your tenant over a time period to help you understand those trends. And those trends are important because if your storage is looking like this, right, it's probably going to continue like that. And once it gets to here, maybe probably here, that's when you're paying Microsoft tens, hundreds, possibly, of dollars per day, per month for additional storage. And we do a really nice job here. We kind of break this down into OneDrive and Exchange and SharePoint, all of that good stuff as well. And even more, right? Helping you understand at the individual workspace level, right? How much storage has been used, all of that sort of stuff as well. So lots of good stuff. The final thing here I want to talk about is a new capability that we are introducing in 2025 as well to help with storage and a whole bunch of other things called the workspace review. This is going to give you the ability to essentially, again, go back in time and change your storage metrics for existing Teams and SharePoint sites. So the idea with the workspace review from a storage perspective is you can now go back and align how you want these SharePoint sites to work. Really powerful capability, because what you can do is go and say, okay, we want to go send out a workspace review and go and ask the owners of that workspace, is it okay if we now maybe set the major limit from 500 to 100 and allow them to make the choices, for instance. So this is going to be, we feel, the most powerful way to help you realign your workspaces, not just from a storage perspective, but it's going to do lots of other really powerful things. It's going to give you the ability to make sure that your membership is correct, that your security is correct, that your privacy is correct, that your sensitivity labels are correct, all of this good stuff as well through here. And again, you'll be able to provide a whole bunch of configuration options, and your users are going to get this beautiful experience where they're going to go, we're going to send this to team owners, we're going to say, hey, we're going to do a version cleanup. Are you okay with us doing this? You can allow them to make the choice. They can either choose to not include particular libraries. And if you don't want to give your users the choice, you don't have to, right? You can essentially go and just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Some lots and lots of options through here. All right, let's jump into a demo here, folks. It's a lot of slides for today. I apologize. Usually we don't do as many slides, but there's a lot to cover. All right, let us go in here and hopefully we can see something that looks like a beautiful Microsoft 365 management platform, which is called Orchestry. Okay, so if you remember, Orchestry is a platform for Microsoft 365. We surface it to our end users through a Teams app, which they can go when they can provision things. We also surface it through the workspace activity or the activity feed through Teams to do things like renewals and everything else. But let's imagine you're interested in understanding your storage. So what we can do, we can come in, we can put in Orchestry into your environment. It takes about 15 minutes really quickly. Now we can start to understand what's going on. So the first thing, like I mentioned, is our recommendations engine. This is an engine that really helps you understand broadly a whole range of things you should be doing in Microsoft 365. There's recommendations based around particular products, for instance, like maybe you're just interested in Copilot readiness or maybe just in Teams. There's recommendations around particular categories. There's also recommendations, and we try to give them a priority through here. So again, we kind of point you to where you need to go and what you need to do. But for today, what we're interested in is storage. So hopefully there's a category of storage. Lo and behold, of course there is. I'm going to click on storage. I'm going to click on apply. And here are the recommendations custom to my environment based on my own data. We're not just making this stuff up, right? We're looking at your data, running this intelligent recommendations engine on, so you know exactly what we need to do, or you know exactly what you need to do. So we can see here we've got 3 recommendations corresponding to storage. Firstly, we have a bunch of bloated workspaces. So we have one library here which has over 5,000 files. Now again, if I want to understand why we are telling you this, we also do a really good job of helping you understand what the recommendation action is, why you should care, some resources as well here to help you understand that. But this is great that I have one workspace. It'd be even better if I could see what that workspace is. But of course you can. You just click on that Orchestry report, and straight away, we're going to take you to this beautiful custom report that shows you exactly which workspace it is, how many documents there are, and how much space is being used. We'll also show you if that's been actively used or not, so your inactivity. And this is really useful because if this bloated workspace reports has a whole bunch of workspaces in here, but everything's inactive for 2-3 years, they're probably really good workspaces for archivals. We can also show you workspaces near your storage limit. Again, in M365, you have the ability to set a storage limit for your workspaces. You should be doing that. And again, I see that I have one workspace here that's approaching my storage limit. This is great. The Amazon Competitive Discussions workspace. Here's the usage, here's the quota, here's the percentage, here's when it was created, here's when it was inactive, right? All the information you need to make some decisions around that as well. And finally, we're also going to tell you if you're approaching your tenant storage as well through here. So that's the first thing, helping you understand what it is and really using that recommendations engine to drive you to actions. Now, some of this stuff you might not care about. Now, you might have tens or hundreds of workspaces which have over 5,000 files. You might not care about that. That's fine. All I can do is say, well, I'm not interested in this now, but remind me in 7 days. We're going to put this into the snoozed category through here. And again, this is a really nice way, again, to customize this experience for you. Next thing, that we want to understand is like, well, we see our recommendations have told us there's a bunch of issues around storage, right? So that's great to understand what's happened now, but how did we get here, right? What happened historically around storage? So that's where our health check capability can come in and do. If you remember from previous sessions, think of a health check as the ability to create a one-time capture of your environment at a point in time. Now, it could be 90 days, it could be a year, super simple to create. I put in a name, I put in a date range, and it appears. Let's go and do the cooking show thing of here is one we prepared earlier. I'm, showing you how to cook a turkey. Now I've just pulled a cooked turkey out of the oven here. The reason I've done that is this one has some pretty good information. Now, a health check, if you remember, has a bunch of information across your entire tenant, your growth of workspaces, teams, SharePoint sites, guest accounts, sharing links created from a security perspective, teams engagement. But what we're really interested in is understanding our storage analysis through here as well. So as part of a health check, I can see my storage trends, which is really, really important. And unlike the Microsoft reports, which only go back 90 days, we're going to go back from the moment that Orchestry has been installed, and even back a little bit further if we have that information. So whereas the recommendations tell us what we should be doing, the storage analysis now really tells us how did we get here. And we break this down really well for you, for your tenant, for OneDrive, for Exchange, and for SharePoint as well. So again, lots of good information here to help you understand what's going on. Okay, so we know there's an issue. We also know that we're trending to a potential disaster. How do we now start to understand, on a more granular basis, workspace by workspace, what is causing storage issues and how I can essentially get a handle on it? So now let's go to our reporting area within Orchestry. I told you I'm going to be jumping around a little bit here, but hopefully this all kind of fits together. We have a range of reports to help you understand Microsoft 365, but we also have some really good reports around storage in particular. So the first one that we would recommend is what's called our workspace content report. This shows you information in terms of how many documents they have, pages, list items, groups, conversations. But notice here, we also can tell you quickly and easily how much storage has been used. And again, the really nice thing around this experience is I can filter. So maybe I'm just interested in team sites, for instance, right? Created by a particular template, accessible by a particular user, all of those sorts of things. We can do that through here. Beautiful, fast experience of being able to sort by items as well. So I can sort here, right? But in addition to that, maybe I'm interested in this project archives one. So 8,500 documents, 28 gig, not inactive. I can even drill down and look into this to start to understand those trends on a more granular basis through here. So if I look at this project archives thing through here, I can see now that over the last 60 days, we've added more and more documents, and we've also added more storage as well through here. So again, really giving you all of that information that you need to really understand what's going on through here as well. I also know here that there's 6610 notebooks through here as well. That's a lot of notebooks, but again, some really great reports through here. So great. Everything that I need here, everything that we need to understand what's going on. And we can see now that our storage is trending the wrong way. We can see which workspaces we might want to make sure that we want to archive. How do we get the process of now reducing storage on existing content and also new content as well? Luckily, we have you covered for that also. So one of the ways that you probably want to save on storage is you want to archive a whole bunch of the stuff where it just hasn't been used, right? For months, weeks, or potentially years. So if I do a sort on days inactive, I can see I got a whole bunch of content through here. If I do a sort on workspace space usage, I also see I have a whole bunch of content here that hasn't been used. This Project Australian campaign, 17 gigs, hasn't been used in over a year. Probably a really good one to be able to go and archive. It also only has 6 documents within here as well. That's really interesting. 17 gigs, 6 docs. Someone's probably jamming in a whole bunch of video files through here as well. But again, what we want to do now is start to save on storage. How do we go back in time, right? add a policy to this that they can then can go and ask our users, hey, you're an owner of this workspace. It's crammed full of content. Are you still using this or not? And then allow them to make the decision around that content. And then also, then we can reduce our storage. So how do we do that? We have a concept within Orchestry called a renewal or an archival policy. So think of this as being able to archive content. And the way that this works is you can attach this to either existing workspaces, so Teams, SharePoint sites, Viva Engage communities, even communication sites. And these can automatically fire based on a criteria of inactivity. So here we've set one up and we're going to say, okay, for any team that hasn't been active for more than 180 days, instead of just archiving this, now you can set these policies up that maybe as an administrator, you're like, good God, there's sites here, we know no one's going to use them, let's just archive them anyway. But more often than not, what you really want to do is let your content owners, your workspace owners, your team site owners, your SharePoint site owners make the decision around that. So we're going to set up a policy and we are going to send a notification to our owners here. We're going to have some custom notification text as well through here. So we say the workspace classified as inactive is marked for archive. It also has surpassed storage governance standards. Let's say, right? Please review the associated workspace and choose from one of the options below. So what we're going to do now to do this at scale is we're going to create a notification, send it to the workspace owners. The workspace owners aren't going to answer the first one because no one ever does. So we're not just going to ask them once. We're going to ask them 5 amount of times as well through here. And then what we want to do is we want to archive this. Now, there's a number of different ways that we can archive content within SharePoint. And the simplest one to kind of understand how we deal with storage is called an archive in place. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say, okay, if someone says, I want to archive this, we're going to keep the team, we're going to keep the SharePoint site, we're going to keep it all where it is, but we're going to perform a series of actions around this, right? And this is something that M365 doesn't do for you, but Orchestry does. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that we can do, right? We can set the SharePoint site to read only. We can remove it for search and Copilot. We can change group options. We can change security, but we're interested in storage, right? So what I can do is I can even set this up of when this site is archived, we're not just going to keep all of the content within the site, but we're going to say just archive the most current version of content, thereby removing all of the previous versions. That is so powerful because, like I said, 90 to 95% of your storage on most SharePoint sites that we see is just old versions of stuff. So if you are running into these significant storage challenges, you can put in Orchestry, send out one of these archival policies, and essentially use it as a way to kind of trim down a lot of the storage that you might have in Microsoft 365. And there's lots of configuration options here as well, like always, right? You don't have to do this. You probably do, particularly when you're talking about storage. You can apply it to all document libraries. Maybe you just want to apply it to some libraries, right? Maybe you've got a template which has the shared documents library, but maybe there's another library that you used for finalized documents. For instance, you want to keep all of the versions in the finalized documents, but not in the shared documents library. You can go and set up this way in whichever way you like. So there's lots of configuration options through here. But just this option alone, being able to archive the most current versions and removing all of the previous versions, we've seen customers reclaim at least 80% of their storage. Like, it blows my mind of just how much old versions of stuff is essentially there. In addition to that, you can also just archive all of the major versions as well. So maybe you're using major and minor versioning as well. We can do that through here. We can even get fancier here, folks, and combine these things together, right? So one of the things that we might also be able to do is say, well, what we want to do an archive in place, right? Where let's say that we're just going to archive everything but the most current version. We're going to keep that, but we're also going to add a second step here And maybe then after a year or two, maybe then we want to move it somewhere else. So we want to delete the content, or we can even move it to a third-party storage with a little bit of magic through Power Automate as well through here. So again, lots of options and lots of capabilities through here. But again, for most of our customers, they set up these policies, right? They go in and we do all of that archiving for you. So what does that look like? Let's go into a SharePoint site. Here has one that we have prepared before. Again, we're going to pull out another turkey here. So again, this is a typical SharePoint site that we have through here. Nice naming convention. It's called Amazon. Tremendous. If you've noticed here as well, everything is nicely configured through here as part of our templating engine. Can't show it to you today, folks. Otherwise, I'll be talking at 500 speed. But what I did want to show you is what goes on typically in most organizations from the document management perspective, right? And just how much stuff is essentially kept. So this is the standard document library through here. There's no magic through here. If I click on library settings here and click on more library settings, because we have to go and make it at least difficult for people. Again, from a version history perspective, remember by default, 500 versions of content is going to be stored. That's a lot of versions, right? I don't think people need 500 versions. Maybe you do, but that's going to be your default. Well, in Orchestry, if I set up a template, I can change this. I can change this maybe to 100 or to 30 or to other things. Again, we can help you do all of that as well. If I go back to this documents library as well through here, you notice there's already a bunch of versions through here. And the reason for that is, again, every time I go and open up this document and I edit it, another version of this is going to be changed. So I'm going to open up this document. I'm going to make one change here. Let us go. Let's add a new slide here. And let's put in insert. Let's put in text box, right? Tremendous, saved, great. Okay, so let's go back into here. We can see, right, version 5.0. Let's go and change this, and let's go to flat here. We are at version 6.0. But if you've noticed, if I look at the version history here as well, notice again, even though I changed this one slide, right, it's still the same size. So again, every time I go and change something, it just takes a complete copy and a complete stamp of that. That's why your version history can go through the roof. So imagine with that Orchestry archival policy that what we can do then is when we archive this, we're going to get rid of all of these versions of content, right? So for instance, this pitch deck, there's 18 versions of this. If I look at this, right, once we run that Orchestry archival process, we're going to get rid of 17 of these old versions, which are 811 kilobytes. You're essentially cutting down that storage for this document by 17 times, because it's going to be 1/17 of what it was. Don't worry about the math, just trust me on that. But again, that's the power of that process. And the way this essentially works through here, and we've kind of done it before here. So let's go back here to Orchestry. Let's go to reports. Let's search for that workspace. So search for Amazon. Here it is, this Amazon one. Now, if you've noticed, this one, we've already sent out a notification through here. So what we've done, this archival has already triggered through here, right? We've sent a notification out to the owners and to the members through here. Again, you can see here that we forced this to archive just about an hour ago when I was getting ready for this. We sent a notification for archival approval. I'm one of the owners of this particular workspace. I get this beautiful notification through here. I'm like, yep, I don't need this anymore, right? Click on archive and click on submit. Now, what's going to happen now as part of this archival process, and it's going to take about 5 to 10 minutes, but it's all going to run into the background here for you. This site will start to get archived, and we'll go through all of the documents, take all of the previous versions, keep the major versions, and all of these previous versions will end up in the recycle bin. And once those get deleted, you get all of that storage back, right? So really powerful, really easy, and really, really simple to do through here. So again, that's really the way that we can help from that storage perspective. In Q1 though, once we bring out the workspace review, even more powerful capabilities, because you might have a bunch of teams and a bunch of SharePoint sites where you're like, well, I want to go back and change the storage, change how many versions are available by default, like we talked about here, right? Change all of that. Again, the renew or archival policy is really meant if you know that content is end of life. But what if you've got a bunch of SharePoint sites that are still being used? That's where that new capability is going to come in from us as well. All right, let me just go and see the chat here as well. Great photo of a turkey. Appreciate it. Hopefully that makes sense. Paul McCartney. Okay, I mean, it could be the Paul McCartney. That would be amazing. Huge fan of your music. Can Orchestry archive the cheapest storage options like Azure Blob? It can. I didn't go through that here, Sir Paul McCartney, but let me go back into here. Let's go back into our slides here. We've only got a few minutes left here, but let me go here, present in Teams. For Sir Paul McCartney, great honor that you are here. We can. So we do have a capability here. I didn't even go through this slide, Sir Paul, but tremendous. Thank you for asking. We can actually archive it here. So it requires a little bit of magic. You kind of have to set up a Power Automate, but it does allow you to move content to cold storage. So if you've got a giganormous ton of content, this gets really simple and really easy to do. So lots of options as well through here. And it doesn't just have to be Azure Blob. You can put it in whatever you want. We've got some customers which are using AWS for some for that purpose as well. So we've got a bunch of capabilities there also. All right, we went through a lot, folks, in our little storage journey here. Hopefully that makes not sense. Unfortunately, I'm not the musician, just regular guy. Okay, well, Paul, listen, you're tremendous name. I think we're just going to call you the Paul McCartney of storage solutions here, essentially. But I appreciate the question here. Adrian Rich, if you archive to Blob, is the data still accessible read-only? It is. Yeah, correct. So there's a couple of ways that we do it. You can either move it, because you're moving it outside of Microsoft 365, it's just going to sit there cold read only. The other thing which is really interesting, which we've shown here, which Ryan, one of our super smart people in our product, do, is they moved it out, but they kept this kind of stub here, so you can still go and find the file through M365 search, and then maybe get it back from that cold storage. So there's lots of options that you can do there as well. All right. Let's talk a little bit around, well, what happens if I want to know? What happens if I want to take this thing for a spin? Luckily for you folks, we have full 28-day trials available. Beautiful. Get in contact with us, request a demo. We'll get you in touch with one of our folks. But you can come in, put in Orchestry. Again, put in the Orchestry, right? Go through the recommendations. We'll help you understand what's going on from a storage perspective. We're going to run a health check for you, so we can help you understand all of those trends, right? We're going to help you understand on a granular level. Then we can start to do some archiving for you as well. All of that within that 28-day trial process. And the way that we do it here at Orchestry is a little bit different. We're just going to give you the tool and say, go at it. We'll go through what's called a managed evaluation. You'll sit down with one of our team. There's 4 sessions. And again, we really help you understand the product and help you get going with it as well. So reach out to us. Go request a demo. It's always fun. We've gotten really good feedback from people from these demos in particular requesting a trial. You're going to love it. Trust me. All right. We're a little bit early. That's never happened, but that's great. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining me today and the Orchestry team. Hopefully this was useful. I would definitely stay in touch in Q1. Many more powerful capabilities around storage, again, to help you understand what's going on. We are really excited about our workspace review concept. Just so you know, the workspace review isn't just for storage. It's going to be for a bunch of other capabilities, but it's really going to complete that storage story in Orchestry. Remember, controlling storage from provisioning, helping you manage storage during the active usage of those workspaces through the workspace review, and then trimming or removing versions of content or moving it to third-party storage through the renew or archival policy. So again, a complete end-to-end solution coming here soon. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the year. We will see you back here in January for another Orchestry demo series. But I wish you all the best. Happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.